Good morning. Happy Saturday. I know my hair. I get to get it cut on Monday. There were positive COVID tests in my office coming up on 14 days ago. And I was just getting ready to get a haircut, so I had to do a 14-day lockdown. So that is why my hair is so long. So yesterday might have been a little confusing. So let's try to do this and apply it in a way that makes sense. What I wanted you to do was extract a formula, a recipe. We all have recipes for whatever it is that we feel. So if we feel happy, if we feel frustrated, if you feel energized, if you feel motivated, if you feel creative, there's recipes for that. We have built-in recipes. Attracted, everybody has an attraction strategy. And one of the things that we can do in terms of figuring out our state is to find those strategies, those recipes, and then replay them whenever we want. And I told you to look at commercials because commercials figure out how to do this. What they do is they give you stimulus. They put you in a specific state, and then they show you their product. So like if you watch a beer commercial, it'll have people playing volleyball, and it'll be gorgeous people doing gorgeous people things, and they'll be moving really fast, and it'll show them having fun and cars, and then bang, and then they'll show you their product. And so they put you in a state, show you their product. Put you in a state, show you their product. That's called anchoring. And we can run our recipes and anchor ourselves to things that we want, and then run a different recipe, a recipe for something we don't like, and change our anchors to the things that we're attracted to or addicted to or that we overuse that we don't want. So that's a big chunk. But let's talk about it in just a practical way. So when I decided that I needed to get up earlier in the mornings, I was not a morning guy when I was younger. I was like my grandfather. I was a night owl. I wanted to stay up until about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, sleep till about 8. Well, as I got off into college, I kind of realized, well, people who tend to be successful kind of tend to be the people that get up in the morning. And then I had a child. And once I had a child, I had a priority that I was going to exercise. Well, there was just no way to control my calendar. Trying to exercise after work just didn't work. So I had to figure out how to exercise in the morning. And which means I had to get up earlier and I had to exercise in the morning, which at first I hated. I hated the whole idea. So in terms of getting up, what I did is I thought about a specific time that I was able to wake up and feel energized without having to do anything, without an alarm and just a consistent way to do that. Well, the thing that immediately came to mind was this golf tournament that I used to work on called the Aquin Open. And I loved the Aquin Open. And so I thought about, all right, whenever it was Aquin Open time, I would wake up before my alarm, super early in the morning, jump out of bed, and I would be energized without even a question. Okay, so I knew a specific time, and I had done it more than once. Doesn't have to be more than once, but that made it even better. So I went back to that time, and I thought to myself, okay, what was the first thing that once my eyes opened, what was the first thing that I did? What was the first thing that I saw or that I said in my head or that I felt when I woke up? And I went back, and you can't intellectualize this. You got to feel it. So you got to go back to the specific time. So I went back to the specific time, and what I realized was as soon as my eyes opened up, a voice in my head said, you got to get up. Then I saw myself after I got up. So the first part was audio, was a voice in my head internally, you got to get up. Then I envisioned myself up and doing stuff and happy about it. And then the next thing I know, I was up and out of bed. So how I applied this to exercise is I did the same thing. When the alarm would go off, I would wake up and I would immediately run the voice in my head, the exact same voice with the exact same speed and tonality and volume. It's got to be, doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be as close as possible. So I would run that voice, you got to get up. And then I would see myself up. And then with exercise, I added to this how good I would feel once the exercise was done. And I ran that pattern for 30 days every morning, and that's all it took. And then after that, I was addicted to getting up in the morning, and I was addicted to doing the exercise in the morning. And every time I woke up, I ran that same pattern. Heard the voice, saw myself up, and then how good am I going to feel when the exercise is done? Next thing I know, my feet are on the ground, and I'm off and going. That is a way to use a current formula that you have, a current recipe, to apply it to something that you don't want to do, and you can completely change your relationship or association to that event. So like, let's say that you have a food that you love, but you don't want to love it as much. Chocolate cake, whatever, popcorn, it doesn't matter. Something, pizza, okay? So now think about a food that you hate. Something that really, maybe something from your childhood. Those memories are even better. Is there a food from your childhood that'll really get you? Did your mother ever or grandmother ever eat like liver and onions, and you smelled it one time and you just couldn't, if you smell that, you just can't take it? Well, what you can do is you can run that pattern to the food that you don't want. So you got to put yourself back in that state, and then remember, what was the first, second, and third thing? What was the first thing that you saw or heard or smelled, and then what came next, and then what came next? And then put yourself in the state of the pizza, and then apply that same formula, that same recipe, and suddenly you're not going to feel the same way about the pizza. When you think about the pizza, you're going to go right to the liver and onions, and your addiction to that food will completely be altered. Now, you might not want to take it to the point where you don't ever eat pizza ever again, but what this does is it allows you to put yourself in a reactionary place that is positive, so like getting up in the morning and exercising, and take away a reaction that is negative. So if you have a food or a drink that as soon as it comes up, you're after it without even thinking about it, this is a way to end that. Apply the same formula of something that you absolutely hate. Put yourself in that state. What's the first thing that you think about? First thing that you smell? A lot of times it's smell. With food, especially if when you're younger, that's because that goes right to the reptilian part of the brain. That's the best part for memory. And if you apply that to the other food, then you'll be done. So let's say the thing that you want to do is you want to feel creative, okay? So remember a time when you felt really creative. Remember a specific time. And then what was the first thing? What was the first thing that you saw or heard or maybe smelled, although with creative, that's probably unlikely, but you never know. What's the first thing? What's the second thing? What's the third thing? Think about that pattern. And then if you want to be creative, run that pattern. Remember back to that time and put yourself and run that recipe. And you will then feel creative. This is happening to us constantly. Okay, we're constantly being anchored. It happens, everybody does this. Every advertiser does this. Every movie does this. Steven Spielberg knows how to do this better than anybody. So it sounds like a lot, okay? This sounds like a big chunk. But take it just little by little. Apply it to one thing. If you want to talk to me individually about this, please message. I'll be happy to talk to you. But you're doing this anyway, or it's being done to you anyway. So riding a bike was tough when you first started. Driving a car with a stick shift was tough when you first started, if you know how to do something like that. This is a way that you can anchor yourself to the things that you want and get rid of the anchors to the things that you might be addicted to. And it can completely change your approach to life. I hated getting up in the morning, and now I wake up before my alarm most mornings, even at 4:30. I usually wake up between 3:50 and 4:20 at some point. I think like one day a week, the alarm wakes me up. And that's just because I've run this pattern so much that I get excited about waking up. I envision the voice comes. I envision myself after it's done. I envision myself after the exercise and how good I'm going to feel. And the next thing I know, my feet are on the ground and I'm putting on my stuff. And now I get to come out here and talk to everybody. So this is a great way to get those patterns done. If you're stuck in things that you don't want, this is a way to eliminate those. And if you've got patterns that you want to expand on, this is a way to do that too. So figure out one of these. Do one of these and share with us what it is that you did. If you've got a food that you don't want to be addicted to anymore, combine it with a food that is something that you can't stand and see the changes. If you want to feel motivated, if you want to feel creative, if you ever want to feel motivated, just remember a time when you were specifically motivated and use an anchor that's already out there. Use Rocky. Use whatever the movie is that got you, or whatever the song is that got you. Use it. And don't think that these things lessen, because that's another one that I've seen where somebody's like, well, I've got this great anchor, but I don't want to overuse it because it might go away. The opposite happens. If you don't use it, you lose it. It's just like a muscle. So the more you use it, the more it's going to work. So you can't overuse this. You should use the heck out of it, and it'll happen even better for you. All right? So I know that's complicated, but this is great stuff. This is great stuff to manage that state. Because what are we working on when you do that stuff? We're working on physiology, because it's going to get you to move, focus/belief, and language. And when you use these anchors, you're using all three. This is what happens to us all the time. Watch any advertisement and they do this to you. So this is a great way to do it to yourself and manage the rest of your life. No longer be in reaction mode. Give yourself the choice. You're the one that's in control as to how your mind and body responds to all of this. This is a great way to take that control. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy the beautiful Saturday. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.